All right, welcome everyone. Today we have one of our authors, Tina Meeks, and we're going to dive much deeper into the Revitalize for the Soul, really get into the nuts and bolts of where Tina comes from and some of her experiences as she in life and as she wrote her story. And so we are going to allow the participants to ask questions, so it's going to be more interactive. And if you want to watch, it's going to actually be in the Revitalize Fest group. But first, I want to let you know a little bit about the book. So the book itself has 20 authors, and each person wrote some really very deep stories about that highlight something about them. It's a powerful collection of these stories and insights and wisdom from each of the authors. Each chapter provides a unique perspective on resilience, transformation, and the power of love. In today's session, we're going to talk a little bit deeper around connection, inspiration, and engaging. And we're going to make sure that each of you get to have that time. So first of all, what I'd like to do though, since all of you are here and going to participate, I'm going to first ask Tina to tell her name, chapter title, a one-liner of her chapter, and a powerful takeaway that she wants you to remember. But then Linda, I'd like you to share who you are, where you're from, and then the reason why you're here, as well as Al, the same thing. All right, so Tina.
Okay, so I'm Tina Meeks. I wrote about the summer of 1982, which was the beginning of my journey and why I'm sitting here today. It was the pivotal point that turned my life around that summer. And one of the things is learning how to understand at such a young age what attempts that I could not handle the emotional strain of what my life was. And anyway, meeting your guardian angel, as I call him, that summer is a major impact in life. And we all are on our journey. And that's exactly what it is, Earth School.
I love it. Thank you, Tina. All right, Linda.
Hi, my name is Linda Allen, and I am a member of a community that Kim is part of called Leader. And I learned about the different opportunities that you were offering, Kim. And I'm just about ready to get myself out there in the same way where I'm sharing my important message and doing it through chapters in co-authored books and um, podcasts and fireside chats. I'm scheduled to do one with you, Kim, in April, and I just landed a TEDx stage, so I'm in that process. Um, and just so that you know that my mission is encapsulated in a program that I've created called Empowered Parents Creating the Best Education Experience for Their Learning Different Child.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. That's quite a mission. That's a big undertaking. So thank you for sharing, and I'm so glad that you're here. All right, Al.
Hi, good. My time is evening now, 11 p.m. So I'm from Malaysia, and what I do is I like to inspire up and rising actors and actresses to also newbies, right from babies up to kids and up to elderly adults to get into the entertainment industry. Well, what I do is I'm a talent scout for acting in TV commercials, movie dramas, social media videos, and whatever acting that people like to get into, acting gigs. So this is what I would like to inspire them to come into this industry and grow themselves, over time and to show their inner brilliance. Okay. I've been doing this for more than 10 years in
Yeah,
the talent
I
scout
love that.
industry.
Yes. So I've been doing pause talks for the last year, as everyone knows, and Revitalize Global for every 2 months, and Al shows up every time. There's a reason why Al comes along with me because he's going to be a part of what I'm doing, and I know that. Um, so right now I'm actually creating, and Linda knows this a little bit. Tina probably, maybe I don't really send a lot of emails to you anymore, so you don't get to read a lot of those, but I do that. But I'm creating dynamic games for innovative thinking at Lifeful Habits. And I'm going to share my mission because it aligns with what all of you just said. And I'll let Tina share her mission to let you think about that. Um, our mission is to inspire students, which students we are all. It's not a student segment, but it is a segment because I am segmenting out the different types of audiences from diverse backgrounds and disciplines to explore innovative solutions for real world challenges. And what I'm doing is I have different events to bring people together to help solve that. Hackathons, and they're going to be themed hackathons they start in the summer. Mentor Me Summer Summit kicks it off, which is really an advanced training cohort for 3 days where you have breakouts. It's a unique design where you have breakouts so that you get to teach some things and people get to see what you teach, and it's teaching golden nuggets. And then there is a, open air fests, and then at the end there's a cohort through this for 6 months that teams get to play in to learn and transform and innovate. And then in October, there's a competition for 3 days called, well, it's Revitalize Fest, but it's in the dynamic games where judges will judge the teams. And they could be creating movies, screenplays, and all kinds of things. So Al's got to stay with me so he sees these people because they're going to want him, right? To help build out at the end, the 3 winning teams will get a VIP day with me and other experts that are involved in it to actually build out, because I'm good at building up businesses and programs, and then other people that are the experts in it build out whatever they want to build out. So that's really the thing. And then it starts all over again next year. I'm aligning with Tech Week in New York, so it'll be hybrid in June. I'm aligning with another place in Yorkshire in Europe in July. So I'm saying all this because it is something that it's really, I am not trying to sell anything. I want to create opportunities for everyone so they don't have to spin their wheels creating all this stuff. So I'm just creating kind of a system and a platform for you. And what you get to do is when you're a part of it, you're in the global think tank. So if you decide to speak, which Linda, I think you have thought about doing this, speaking at Mentor Me Summit, right? For the time that you sign up as a speaker until you actually speak on, do the teaching, you get to be in the global think tank for free 4 weeks. That's a paid membership typically, but you get it for me I'm paying you by giving it to you so that you can actually, get something out of it, another network. So you see, so it's an engagement model, and I'm sharing this all. I want you all to win. It's always been my motto, and Tina knows this. So Tina, I want you to share now your mission.
Well, my mission is basically to educate, same thing, on letting people understand that I have been through a journey, and many of us have. I've been on a pretty interesting journey, pretty intense, solidly for 23 years. And one of the things that I'm educating now on is trying to help with bullying. Now, not just educating on bullying as in reference to we all know it's going to happen. It's probably never going to end, but understanding that it's a them problem, not a you problem. And how do I know this? Is because my bully and I became best friends after years. And I'm not talking just short-term years, long-term years. And we became really good friends, and I helped her through many different chemo battles, cancer battles that kept coming back. And I lost her October 19th of 2022. And our journey was to talk about it, because she made it very clear it was a problem within her, not with me. And she saw things in me that she didn't see in herself. And she was frustrated with herself because she didn't have these abilities, but she did have them. And she realized that. And she became a really amazing person, even under the battle of cancer. So the goal was for us to tell one of our stories at least on the YouTube channel or podcast. But unfortunately, Michelle declined pretty quickly, and we could not get our story out. So I made a promise to her the last time I saw her that I would tell but it's taken me this long to be able to talk about it because it's very emotional for me. It was a long, long journey. And I love her for it because she bullied me better.
All right, Linda, you're on mute. Stay unmuted, both of you, and just share and respond.
I I just went like, wow. That was so beautifully said, Tina.
Thank you.
I love that she bullied you better. Wow. What a statement. What a mindset shift for so many. I can't wait to hear your message or read your message or
Yeah, I am starting the YouTube channel. It's already started. The graphics started. I just got to get the first story out there. It's very tough. It's very emotional for me to even start from the beginning, and I'll be joining in her family members and her grandson that was a big impact with us when I first met him and how she introduced me. Yeah, and that was tough.
So, Tina, since when you have this silent struggle of being bullied,
When I'm sorry, Al?
the silent struggle, because earlier on during the first book talk, you were talking about silent struggles of
Well,
being
for
bullied.
it, I was in a different mindset. I was young. I was tiny kid. I was being, I was, I was being abused by my twin brother. He also bullied me. Um, and then I had the bully, Michelle, and then, just odd and ends things. And that kind of mentality when you're young, you just think it's something's wrong with you. And I knew I was this weird oddball. I never fit in or was understood. So it becomes very deep within yourself that you can't understand what is wrong with you. Then you start figuring, well, I'm not like these other kids. I don't do this. I don't do that. You grow up through your teen years and you start realizing, you see the world differently and you just can't understand why you're not accepted no matter what. I learned to play the violin professionally in 3 months, was playing with the Philadelphia Orchestra that Christmas. So what I did is I took all the turmoil in my life and everything that I experienced, and I would turn it around into an amazing talent, like playing the violin. That was a way of avoiding the teenage years. For example, I was 13 hanging with a girl that was drinking a lot. I got into drinking for a short amount of time and I realized that was not healthy. So I joined the music course, and started playing the violin and religiously was playing it, constantly walking around the neighborhood playing whatever I had to do. And that's what I just did throughout my whole life, Al, is just continue to learn. Anytime there was a struggle, I would learn, educate, learn, teach others. And it just became this cycle and cycle. And that is how I learned. People ask me all the time, how do you know so much of this information? It's because this is how I've always kind of helped myself. And then I used it to help others.
Yeah, and I think Al gave you a title of your book too, your bigger book that you're looking at doing eventually. I know that that's something I keep throwing a little seed, which will happen in a few years. But I mean, I've been called to interview for a TEDx tomorrow. And that's actually what I'm talking about, is being the silent, being silent all those years. Because in my head, I was a wise young child, what do they call that? An old soul. And I would always be very silent and never speak in the room or speak up, because I either didn't know how to, or didn't feel I could, or I didn't have the right words to align with what was the pictures in my head, because I'm an artist. And so my entire childhood, has been walking in wisdom and silence. And so then in the 20s, I learned through education how to put words to the pictures, because I taught that to my daughter when she'd have feelings, and then I'd always say, how do you feel today? And there was a picture and a word, so that I'd teach her the word of the feeling. I kind of help her understand her feelings through words so she could speak them, so she wasn't having tantrums. That's what happens to kids, right? When they can't speak yet. And so yeah, so I'm doing that pitch tomorrow for the TEDx, and I love that it aligns with what you're saying and what Al gave you the title of your book as, or even a movie, right? Because we all have a story, and this one here, Tina, we've known each other for a good over, I don't know how long, but a long while.
It's been a while.
And I've heard
Long
your
term.
stories, and we went on walks. And it's a step-by-step process to share those stories. And that's why we're doing the Revitalize for the Soul. It was a journey to even, some people were even saying the last Meet the Authors, many of them were saying, I couldn't even sit down and figure out which one to write or what to write. And this really is a journey, an opportunity for you to practice writing so that you can get the one out of many stories out there, right? So that's why I'm doing it too. This Revitalize for the Soul, there's another one next year, and that's all part of this program I'm doing. Everyone who signs up gets to be an author. So, Tina, I'm going to come back to a habit. So, in our always on world, what daily habit or mindset shift from your chapter can help people feel more grounded and at peace?
I just knowing that you're not alone. If you feel like that oddball, that's okay. Be that oddball, be that unique person. I geared towards superheroes, right? Superheroes are the ones that are out in the world, and we are the oddballs. We realized that at a young age. And so I hooked towards Superman and Supergirl. And that was my hook, is getting into the superheroes. And I call all of my people that are in my life that help me help others like him, my Justice League. And so just know that, find your Justice League. It's okay. And they're out there. Just don't feel like you have to do this alone, because one of the things that I shunned myself was, I feel more comfortable behind the curtain in Wizard of Oz, the wizard, because that was my comfort zone. It's very hard for me to come out and speak about my stories. And Kim knows there's so much of it that I can't verbally express. Kim's well aware of that. When you are dealing with so much of this level, it's very hard for me to articulate because the emotions are too strong, if that makes sense. So I have a really hard time discussing a lot of my stories because I can't get the words out. And that's where Kim helps me.
I just have to say, I learned this a long time ago. Up until now, it has been hard for you because feedback here, you are speaking beautifully and vulnerably and courageously right now.
I just hear Charlie Brown's mom, yum, 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 yum. It's very, very
From
difficult.
what I'm saying or what you're saying to yourself,
I
right?
feel like inside it's not coming out, it's just
Exactly.
like
But
a
so
lot.
hear that. Up until now, it has been hard.
Yes.
Up until now. The other thing I want to say is that this whole process, I've called myself a personal growth junkie for years, right? Because I started doing it when it was not popular. I still have these words ringing in my ear from my dad, who's passed and been passed for a while. He'd say, "Tell me why you walk on hot coals." I forget. Remind me what that reason is, right? So I was always the weird one in my family. And here I stumble across this desire to make a bigger difference, to leave a legacy from this work that I've been doing for 50 plus years in my life, of trying to make a difference for the different. And I go into like this leader group, and I go into and every place I am meeting what I see is my heroes too. And this transformational experience, I think it is a gift for us. Those of us who have been brought to learning the lessons, the mission that we were put on the earth to do. Literally, may I say, our destiny, right? Like what we were really being called to do. No wonder why it's like this. And no wonder why I'm going to cry too. There's so many gifts in this transformational process. And is there a leader ever in our whole knowing of leaders that didn't have to go through
Yeah. Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah. And it
And one
shifts
last,
younger
right?
to adults. Like
Major.
I was saying, when I was younger, the way I felt, but I had the experience of being bullied as an adult. You want to talk about a whole nother perspective.
Right.
That helped me for 3 years get through it. And that's really how our relationship solidified. It was like I was meant to go back and relive that experience through this adult experience to try to understand what all this happened as a child. It's amazing how different it is. And you don't see it until you're in it. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is a different form of bullying. And
Yes.
yeah, and that oh wow, it's just
And
unbelievable.
so have you heard also, your message is your message, right? So when we start getting upset when other people are maybe um, criticizing our message or not hearing our message or not able to, um, or we have something to learn about packaging it and presenting it in a way that makes it easier for them to hear, right? I mean, like those are because it's our message. And what I've really realized with mine is that I am becoming, and I'm going to be 70. For a long time.
Look
I am
amazing.
becoming the person I need to become to be able to present this message. And so are you. All of us. What an incredible, and oh my God, Kim, I can't wait to sign up and do whatever I need to do to be in your space. But I think that's what we're being, especially at this time when new thought is being like prayed for, new thought, new ways, new opportunities, new magic, new miracles are being brought forward. We're the warriors. We're the superheroes we're looking up to.
I love that. That it's funny because I have a new person in my group and she channels God's message and she gives me that message almost daily. And one of the messages are that I need to just slow down and it's going to happen. There is a plan here. Just don't be moving it forward so quickly. The four of us here are here for a reason. The only four of us here are here for a reason. We're here in this space to talk through this together, to share it with the world the way we need to share it. And I get that, but it's like I'm always but, it's like the whole,
Yeah.
I want the end. I want the end. And I know that through my experiences, like doing an Ironman, it was the journey. It's the journey with you, Tina. There's no end to it, even though we thought there was an end. There's
Yeah.
always going to be some breaks and ends and opens because we have to learn. We have to learn that it really is, the one thing that I'm really learning in my space today is that when I'm not articulating something the way like someone doesn't understand it because it's my message, it is me to look through how did I articulate that so that I can re-articulate it so it's clear. It's nothing wrong or right about what it is. No one did anything wrong. There's always that we always feel wrong and we leave wrong. And then that's that emotion we're living in. And emotions are there for us to balance around wrong and right, to understand the wrong and right that we're actually creating in our head. I'm getting a little deep here, but it's that whole thing. about looking in the mirror and seeing you're speaking to you in this space and love yourself. There's so many, I never would look at myself in the mirror for years. I don't put makeup on, as you notice. I do sometimes on stage, I have to, but I never stood in front of them. I did maybe for a little bit in my high school days when you do that, right? But I was not one of those people that it took 3 hours to get dressed and do my makeup.
Mhm.
And so because I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror, you see, and now I am a lot doing these video things every day and checking in, how we have that, Tina, with the Marco Polo. So I see myself more and go, oh my goodness, I emoted an emotion and my face didn't reflect the emotion. Again, it's about not just image, it's about what's coming from our soul, from our, you know, or wakefulness, whatever the words we want to say. But I didn't intend it at all. And it came out, my face looked different. I get that. Or word didn't make it landed wrong in a different way to another person. And that's the stuff that I'm really diving in deep about language and all the stuff to understand it myself. I write books, I keep writing to understand it. It's like my way of processing the understanding about the world, and all kinds of things. That's why I have so many books. I said, well, if I'm going to write it, I might as well put it out there. People read it or not, but I'm just putting it out there because I did the work. Might as well put it out there, right? So, Al, what do you got?
Yeah, I would say that all of us has got a bullying moment, in our life, whether we are a child or whether we are a teenager or whether we are an adult. So it's just like sometimes there's a lot of like recurring pattern in some sort of a way, like child, how you're bullied by elderly or whether it's in the same peer or even when you're at school, you're bullied, when during your studies, you're being compared, it's like a comparing, everybody is just comparing each other or even like the Joneses, they're comparing you whether you're better, well to do or better off than another person. So there's always a comparison and also being bullied in a certain point of your life. So sometimes these recurring patterns, every time come in and about, it's how you handle the situation, is important, especially when our mind, if you take it very strongly and you think that the person is criticizing you, so you reflect back, why they criticize you, and then is it because they are ganging up against you, or whether it's or the other way around, what you're doing is right, and you think that it's right, you go ahead, with your and and you do not bother about what they're talking behind you and all that. Because a lot of things are always happening. There's always people who like you and those people who dislike you. So these two situations always there. So yeah. So I like what you're putting up,
Yeah.
your own resilience and all that. Yeah. Hmm.
Definitely. And you
You're,
have to, oh, I'm sorry, Kim.
you're,
You just have to stand back and let
go for it.
you have to stand back and Al, I do that. And Kim, I don't know if you do that or Linda, but now I have to, when my granddaughter told me this several years ago, Mimi, it's a them problem, not a you problem. I actually analyze that every single time I feel like I'm being attacked or bullied or whatever the situation is, or somebody's trying to, put something in, I'm like, okay, is it a me problem or it's a them problem? And then I had to step back and evaluate how I respond. Perfect example, Al. Sorry, Kim. Wanted to say how we have to
Yeah. Nope,
adulting.
no, it's you. Go for it, Linda.
Oh, I just want to say also that, I mean, this is just what I think we all are learning. Um, our lessons are our lessons. And Al, you said it so well. The way you handle it, it's like it's like the specially designed lesson for you. Like nobody said life was going to be a chair of bowlies or a bowl of cherries, right? I mean, right? Like, so I had a tutoring center for 20 years where I just really empowered children, like I'm trying to empower their parents. It was easier to do the children, in spite of whether their parents were with me or not, to really help them be the best that they could be. And that really was the goal, right? And every one of them at some point or another, I had to say to them, everything happens for a reason. Everything. It's like one of my Linda-isms, right? Everything happens for a reason. And sometimes we're lucky enough to learn what the reason was at a time when we could even do something about it. So it is just so dependent on our openness and our willingness and our readiness. So there is no wrong. There is no bad. It's only when we're comparing it to others, right? Like you were saying, Al, when we get into that link, and that's also because people want to belong. People want to, like people don't know how to relate to each other. They don't know how to sit in silence and love you as you share your story, right? So they want to, and other people, they're just so desperate for relationship that they just come in a way, well, you know that all too well, isn't it? Because that's what your story is about, right? So it's not about what other people do. At the end of the day, it's, it's about the God inside of us. It's our love, it's our light, it's our wisdom, it's our blessing of being on this planet at this time, right? And that we have been actually chosen in this way to share. I mean, of course it's going to be transformational, right? And finding, I think, and that's, I think this, what I'm loving about this too, is like, you're just reminding me that I just need to be so careful about finding the right like-minded people. And, just like we're part of the world, and, like in trying to get our message out there, there's people that are not living in that same level of authenticity and integrity. And, but we have to surround ourselves with that protection and that knowing, and still keep our heart really open so that we could just, keep on connecting and building our strong, very, very strong love light superhero, what you call Justice League,
Just the thing. Well,
right?
I feel blessed because my story in my chapter is the beginning of what I learned at 9 years old. The pivotal point of meeting Brother Bill and him explaining about Earth School and preparing me for the things ahead. And the whole time I didn't understand at 9 years old. I just knew I was so intrigued and attached by what he had to say that it still lives with me at 52. And I was 9. And all the kids in the neighborhood that would go with us would go, "You always talk to Brother Bill. What are you talking about over there?" I'm like, "Oh, he's really interesting." But then again, I was that girl, and he was so insightful. And that's what my chapter's about, it is exactly what you're saying, Linda, is the knowledge that we get. We don't realize how blessed we are that someone from his caliber came into an existence of a 9-year-old that changed my entire thought process for the rest of my life, no matter what. Reminds me of that scene in Constantine where he's walking through the area of hell and all the fire and all that. That's literally sometimes when I went through these periods, I would actually see myself, wow, that's how I felt going through this one part of my life or going through that part. And you learn to prepare yourself better when you're taught and you understand what you're here for. Perfect example. Yeah.
All right, Nancy, we're doing kind of a back and forth conversation with Tina, one of our main authors of 20. And I'm asking her questions, and then I'm giving her time to pause so that you can actually react to it and see how it lands for you. So feel free to stay off of mute so that if something does come up, you can just respond real quickly. I have another question for you, Tina. Here goes. So many people struggle with self-doubt and imposter syndrome. How does your story address overcoming these inner barriers?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, we have to all know that we're unique, no matter what. We all have different strengths. I don't ever call them weaknesses. I call them inexperiences. We all have different levels, and we have to always learn to focus on what we can give, not what this person has. Like for me, I look up to Kim because she can write like no tomorrow. Like she's an amazing writer. Just I'm in awe of her. Now, being 5 years old, 6, 7, 8, 13, 15, 19, whatever, there would be, and again, I don't understand the jealousy part. So I don't understand that terminology in my world, but I've seen it. And that many people probably would be jealous of Kim's abilities, right? Just like they were of me, that I did, that I had a talent to play the violin professionally in 3 months and get to play with the Philadelphia Orchestra. So there's these terms that I don't like. They're negative to me is jealousy, but you can see it and then you want to prepare yourself on the reaction. I feel like that's like an imposter syndrome. Is how do you react when you feel like that, and how do you want to grow out of that? For example, I want to be able to speak. I'm actually like, never in my life would I be expected to be sitting here, because that was one of my biggest things, and I joined a speaking program to learn how to articulate a little better. And then, that's how I met Kim. And it's really interesting. Imposter syndrome, yes, it gets me too. I held on to it because I didn't get to finish college. So I felt my value was always down low, and I had to work 5, 6, 7 times harder because I didn't have that college degree to show, hey, I can do this. Had nothing to do with your college degree, had to do with your integrity, your work ethic, your habits, what you can show to the company, what you can bring. And now look, I own my own business. I'm a CFO, and I have done and helped so many businesses across the United States in harnessing their software systems and processes that bring profitability. No degree. It's because of what I brought to the table and what I learned. And I focused solely on my strengths, not my inexperiences, that got me where I am today. And that's what you have to focus on.
Wow. Can I just say how amazingly strong that answer was?
Thank you.
That
I
was
mean it. I do
spoken
mean it.
so well, was it not, Kim?
Oh, yeah.
So well.
Truth.
Yeah, it's always like working smart rather than working intelligently, or working with your educational degree behind you. So it's always street smart that always plays, when you come to the working world, in the corporate world. So it's not
Yes.
like with your back degrees, that you have tons of them, up to even MBA and all that, but you couldn't perform at your job, then it's something like you cannot meet the KPIs, of what the bosses need that from you and all that. Yeah.
It's,
And coming
it's
to that, I'd like to ask, in your website, you have 3 Fs, what does the 3 F stand for? F, that financials, Yeah.
so well, my number is a 3. So everything, my pattern in my whole existence of life has always had a 3 of some sort, triple threes. And so when I was looking up F that financials and I came up with that name, well, things like that happen. I know F that is already a trademark name. So I wanted to bring in my 3s, which was my 3 Fs, and then F that financials.
Mm.
So it's symbolism for me.
Nancy.
I have a question. I have poor memory. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't even know what we're discussing. Somebody just kind of just give me a brief overview of what we're talking about. Topic sounds
Sure. So
great.
first of all, you're meant to be here because, yep. So you're meant to be here because you showed up. And that's what happens a lot of times. People will show up and they go, I don't know how I got here, but this is amazing. So this is we did a book called Revitalize for the Soul. 20 authors wrote their stories from the heart. And so Tina and I both have stories in there, but Tina is being highlighted today, and we're giving you an opportunity to meet her more, to see what she's about, and reflect on anything that she shares.
Okay. All right. Well, let me listen for a minute. It sounds very great right now. So,
Thanks, Nancy. Nice to meet you.
I know it's very interesting. I mean, I'm like, oh, okay. But I just am like, when did I sign up for this?
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's get you to another question, Tina, because I have many and we have a short time. I want to make sure we can cover some more. So again, listeners, think about this and maybe put it in the comments because this is a replay. Put your thoughts in the comments as Tina shares her answer, and each of the audience reflects on it too. So make sure to bring up your thoughts that land, how it lands for you when Tina answers. All right, so Tina, with burnout at an all-time high, what is one unconventional way to recharge that has worked for you?
Comedy. Anytime, I mean, work in high industry, finance, of course, CFO, and I work in property management. So anytime it's very stressful, I come up with, I have different names, like the courthouse is the circus. If you're going to a lockout because someone's being locked out after an eviction, who's going to the psych ward? Paperwork, if you're going with the court documents, it's called the popcorn. Who's got the popcorn? So I make these analogies and I refer to property management as the trauma center. And I call trust accounting in single family property management the 5-dimensional accounting process. And I literally educate and train property management companies all over the United States because it's all about comedy. Because if you can bring comedy into the light, there's no green. There's no green. It's red, orange, and yellow. Let's go. And tell me what it is, because somebody's everything's an emergency. So, you got to throw comedy in your work life, especially when it's really stressful. And when it's really bad, and I've already done the stage and the microphone, so to speak, I come home and watch my comedy. And I just will sit and laugh and laugh and laugh. And that's how I decompress.
I'm going to just respond real quick before everyone else does. That's your book. What you just shared is the outline of your book right there. And we got it. So I'll send that off to you. All right. Anyone else?
That's how I can find humor, everything, even death. I have to look at something. I have to remember them as something funny. That's how that's my coping mechanism in life is laughter and humor, and because like she said, you've got to have it to get by. So I totally relate to that one.
And Tina, I just have to say, that's your superpower.
So I hear.
You know what? And if you would have led with that, and because that is what you do, you lead with that. I would never have expected that answer out of you based on what you have shared so far.
Oh yeah, that's like everybody knows that. This is how my leadership is described in 2 words. You're firm, but you're funny. Like, thank you. Give me the stage and the.
So I just have to say, like, the word owning comes up for me. However, when you're owning your true self, unbelievable. You are such a teacher, such a leader, such a gift to us.
I'm glad my experience has led me to meet all of y'all. And that's what I keep saying to myself, even when I met Kim. If I had to go through what I went through for 23 years, and there is so much hasn't even been discussed. Kim has heard about 16 stories. Helping one person, like this has been the hardest thing for me to come out with my stories. If I can help one person, that means the world to me.
Done.
And that's why I'm here. That's what helps me become brave, is knowing that I can help one person out here.
Oh my God, you're not helping just one. Oh my God.
It's been a tough road.
So what do you have comparison with bookkeeping and profit and loss statement and notice what are the funny parts that you change it, like
Oh,
balance sheet,
I have
all
so
that.
many, Al. I have well, I nickname everything and what I teach. Um, your your profit and loss statement is going to say whether you're going to eat dinner tonight or have macaroni and cheese or oodles and noodles for the weekend. So if you're not paying attention to your profit and loss statement, or looking at your balance sheet, at least try to honor that. And then you're not paying attention to your cash flow. Look, I don't care if you drink 2 margaritas at dinner every night, we just got to find a way to give you some tax strategy so your balance sheet looks a lot better, because that's what's important.
Good one.
And then your software systems, that's a whole nother ball game. If your software systems are not set up right, it doesn't matter what sheets you're looking at or what paper you're looking at. It's what matters behind the scenes and how everything is flowing through the system that's causing you lose profitability. Believe it or not, many businesses don't realize that. They're like, we're losing money, we don't know. Well, it's because you don't have this little button over here, click, that says, hey, you got to do this when you do this, or Miss Joe over here isn't hitting the process before Miss Tina, and so now you're losing money because she was too quick. Don't hit that magic button too fast. That's going to be the death of your business if one person's doing something sooner than the other person, and then you have less income going through the system. So yeah, it's all about strategy. Small strategy plans that I put in place make big differences. And it really boils down to that. Believe it or not, it's simpler than you think.
I love that. And I'm going to go to the next question. We often hold on to past experiences. What advice do you have for releasing old stories and stepping into a new version of ourselves?
Ooh, it's a good one. Kids always got good questions. Taking your old stories, I'm the poster child for that. You just have to find the meaning behind it. What was the lesson you're meant to learn? So in my adulthood, I would say to myself, ooh, I'd have a moment. What was I supposed to learn from that lesson? All right. First, I'd have my comedy moment with myself. And then I would have to analyze and figure out what was I supposed to learn from that moment. And no lie, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've had an experience. And then a few days later, a few weeks later, somebody else I know that I worked with, or someone that I met in a restaurant, I actually had this happen to me one time in a restaurant, was talking about the same experience. And I'm like, I just experienced that. And you know what I did? Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. I wouldn't have known to do that. Da, 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 da. And that's literally, so I started realizing I must have been having to experience that moment to learn and educate myself to help others. And that is how this whole pattern has been throughout my whole life. I always realized that that's what you got to learn. Your experience is because you're that person that was meant to experience to help other people, no matter how bad or how traumatizing.
I love that. And if people, like, I have been looking at all my stories, and everyone usually would ask me when I was when you were a child, what did you want to do when you grew up? Well, I never said anything about what I wanted to do. I just did it. I would write little books in a notepad. I'd create communities with Fisher Price toys. I'd, carpet squares on my picnic table. I color books. I color pictures each day and put it in a 3-ring binder and make a whole book out of it for kids' books, right? I can talk about on and on, the athleticism stuff that I do, right? I did a lot of playing basketball when I was just shooting horse, and I started to just do things, right? I would do all the time. But if people look back at their childhood, instead of asking, what did you want to do when you grow up? But what did you do? What were you being? Right? As you were living your childhood, you can actually see the patterns around the building foundation of what you're learning where you are today. And it continues. All right, I'm gonna have last question, and then we're gonna have you leave a golden nugget for the group. If someone is feeling lost or unsure about their purpose right now, what is the first small step they can take to rediscover their path?
I've been down this a couple times. talk to yourself. Talk to yourself before you go to sleep and ask where your answers are. A lot of times your answers are very subtle and we don't pay attention to them because we get in our own head and we're not paying attention to the signs and symbols. You have to be able to do that. So talk to yourself and the answers will come for you. Write them down. Write down things you want to do, things that you think are even not even possible. Just write them down and just talk to yourself. More people need to talk to themselves. I talk to myself all the time, y'all. I'm waiting for the white van to come with the jacket sometimes, but talk to yourself because believe it or not, you do get your own answers that help guide you in your path.
Anything come up for anyone, Al?
I keep hearing, we teach what we need to learn most. And that's definitely been true. And I have the same exact thing as you, Tina, when you said that. You know, like when you were saying like every single thing. And I just have always known I need to give that away. That was my way in order to, I learned by helping others. I've been doing that since I was a kid.
Me too.
And so that to me is the answer too. It's just looking at the way you've always done it. Like you said, Kim, look back at what you've done and that will get you, if you're like lost, it'll get you right back on your path.
Very true.
Or
Important
very,
of self-reflection. Self-reflection, like what you think every night before you sleep, at least you think, what did I do wrong, or what do you say to that
Right.
person that you communicated on that day, or this and so, is it something that I reflected, whether it's the right thing I said, or whether it's something that I should add on more or whatever, so it's important to do that. Yeah. Because sometimes we are so busy with our mind, the monkey mind always move here and move there, we always miss out certain things here and there, so it's important to have the self-reflection. Yeah.
And
And
sometimes
of
we're
course,
always asking other people for what would you do? What would you? No, you need to look within yourself. What would you do? Because you're the expert of your life. You're the one that takes your path, and no one's going to do it for you. Or you may go into a different direction. You want to be able to direct your own life. Be the director and producer and creator of your own life, and it'll happen. You'll be more happier if you do that than if you allow other people to do it for you.
I
absolutely.
love that. All right, so we're going to close it up because you already gave the golden nugget that I was going to ask you to give. Thank you for our wonderful Tina and all of you for being here today. I hope today's session has left you feeling inspired and energized. Take a moment to reflect. What's your biggest takeaway from today? And connect with our authors, grab a signed copy, and let's continue these conversations beyond the event. I will put the link to our Revitalize Fest group. Don't forget to share your experiences on social media, and we look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.